What's up, guys? Today we're going to be checking out the Pixel Fold today. I want to thank the folks at the Team Pixel for sending this out. And yeah, let's go ahead and check it out. I think we had one folding phone, and it was the Galaxy Z Flip phone. I can't remember which generation, but it was okay. I think my biggest thing with that phone was that the crease, but let's see if the folding phone experience is better. I know this is different because it folds out like this, more like a tablet. All right, so $1,800, guys. Very expensive phones. A lot of these folding phones are very, very expensive, guys. So this one is $1,800. Even if you go with Samsung, you're gonna pay, well over $1,000. And comes out right here. Go ahead and put this to the side real quick. Alright, we got some paperwork, SIM card, ejector, then we got our dongle, and this is type C to type C. Alright, so this is a glass and metal design here, and it actually has quite a bit of weight to it. Definitely not a light phone for sure here. So it's got a matte finish here, glossy sides, and then we see the front screen right here. We'll go ahead and boot it up. So this is the outward screen, and it's a 5.8 inch display, and we'll get into the specs and all that. And then it pops out like this, and it turns into a 7.6 inch display. Very, very cool. The hinge on here is very firm, super firm, and it actually closes all the way. So usually they have that little crease in a lot of foldables, but this one actually closes all the way. Very cool. Now, can you do it with one hand is the question. Yeah, you kind of do it, but I wouldn't, because then I would be worried about digging your nail into the screen a lot. You kind of have to open it with one hand. I mean, two hands. All right, let me go ahead and set it up here, and before we do that, let's just go over the button placements here. So it's your power button, volume rockers on the side, and that's pretty much it. It's actually kind of thin, believe it or not, and actually kind of comfortable to hold in this position right here, since it has more of a wider kind of design compared to the Samsung's Galaxies, where it's really thin. Alright, guys, so I got everything set up, and let's go ahead and talk about the screens on this folding phone here. So the screen on the outside, it is a 5.8 inch display. It's a 1080p display, 408 for the PPI. It gets a max brightness of 1500 nits, and then when you unfold it, it's a 7.6 inch display, and this gets a max brightness of 1450 nits peak brightness, and that it's looking like this outside display is 1440p for resolution, it looks like, or 1840 by 2204. So it looks like it's I think that's 1440p plus. And again, beautiful displays, 120 hertz on both the displays. They're OLED displays as well too, and it's very cool. I would say the gaming experience is pretty cool on here, to be able to go from just playing games on a small screen to a big screen. And let's go ahead and talk about it, because I went outside and was taking some pictures and stuff like that. Surprisingly, the crease is not as bothersome as I remember using the Galaxy Flip. The crease on here, you really can't see it that much. Now, it does become a little bit noticeable depending on which wallpaper you put. So I put this purple wallpaper on here, and I can't see the crease that much, but with the stock wallpaper that Google had on here, when I took it outside, I noticed the crease. So I noticed that a little bit more, but you can see the crease at an angle, but if you're looking at it head on, you can't really see the crease, right? And your fingers are not gonna be rubbing through the little bump you feel right here, because typically you're going to be swiping and scrolling from the sides like this. So the crease is not really a big deal, surprisingly. And again, like I said, you can kind of see it depending on if it's a darker thing, but like I said, it really depends. You can't really see it head on. So the crease is not a big deal for anybody who is like, I don't want to see a screen with a crease in it. It's actually not that big of a deal. And one of the things that's really awesome about this is that this hinge is really, really firm, like very firm. You can sort of prop it up like this if you desire to, and it just feels really sturdy. So it doesn't feel like it's gonna break anytime soon. So all right, so this thing is running the pure stock Android experience here, and it's a very, very smooth phone. It reminds me again of course, like a Pixel 7 Pro. It is a blazing fast phone. Everything is really bouncy and very animated. You swipe up like this, and then it brings up the little dock thing where you switch between applications and stuff like that. And the good thing about these folding phones, right, is that multitasking is actually a joy to use on a device like this. So go ahead and split to the left, and then we'll bring up the Play Store. And it's just really easy to multitask on such a big display like this. Very, very nice to multitask on. So for productivity, this is just a really good experience. That's one of the main reasons you would get like a folding phone, right? Now the video watching experience is pretty good on here, but you will have like these bezels and stuff like that. Mostly because a lot of videos are in 16:9 aspect ratio, so you will have, you know, these bezels like this, but it's still better than watching a video on a smaller screen. It's still going to give you a bigger display here. But yeah, it is a pretty good display and a pretty good screen experience. And like I said, the whole Google operating system is just basically what you would expect. Stock Android 13, and it's really fast and fluid on here. Alright, I want to talk about the gaming experience. So for a game like PUBG, we are able to run HDR Extreme, and this is probably the coolest thing about owning a foldable phone, right? So you go from 5.8 inches to a 7.6 inch display here. This is running Google's Tensor G2 chip, and then 256 gigs of internal storage and 12 gigs of RAM. It is a pretty fast phone when gaming. Like I said, that's probably the coolest thing about this phone, is being able to go from a small screen to a big screen like this. It's pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. So if you're into gaming or multimedia, now I see the appeal with these folding phones. And yeah, so the crease, that was my main thing. Like I was like, is the crease gonna be like a thing where you can't use it? And also one thing that I noticed is like when you unfold the phone, and I don't know if just because this is like I don't know if they wanted to do this on purpose, when you unfold it, it doesn't quite go flat all the way. You have to kind of like apply a little bit of pressure to make it completely flat, I noticed. But not a big deal. I'll be interested to see if that stays like that throughout, a longer period of using it. But gaming performance is pretty good. And again, you're not going to get the most powerful chip benchmark wise and stuff like that compared to Snapdragon and Apple and all that stuff. But I think for the average person, it does a pretty good job. Like I said, very bouncy and does a pretty good job with the overall experience. Alright, so here are the Geekbench scores. This is Geekbench 6, and you can see, those are the results you get. You can compare them to other devices. But like I said, not the most powerful chip set. Alright, so let's talk about the hardware a little bit more here. The fingerprint scanner, they went with a physical one, which makes sense. It's the best implementation for this type of device. And you do have stereo speakers, which I do want to go ahead and show you guys the sound quality of this. Let's go ahead and turn these speakers up, max volume. Actually, some pretty good speakers, pretty good bass on here, and they are fairly loud, so that's very good because since this is a multimedia device, the speakers need to be very good on here. Alright, so this is basically a pixel camera, so it basically takes photos pretty much like the Pixel 7 Pro. It's a 48 megapixel standard, 10.8 megapixel telephoto, 5x optical zoom, 10.8 megapixel ultra wide. It can shoot in 4K 60 on the front and back, and then it's got a selfie cam right here as well too, which is pretty nice. and this is a pretty good quality camera as well. As you can see from the shots, it basically takes, you know, photos like the Pixel 7 Pro. So you're getting a flagship quality camera on here. The video on here is pretty good as well too. Just my first impressions. It was a pretty solid video, pretty solid pictures. One thing is that you might have to change the aspect ratio on these to, you know, especially if you have it in like tablet mode, because the default aspect ratio is going to be 3:4, so you would have to change it to 4:3 or something like that, depending on like how you're using it. So that's just something I noticed off the bat. But we'll look at the cameras more, the long exposure mode, the night sight. We'll see what these cameras are all about, portrait mode. But from my first impressions, it basically looks like a Pixel camera. Now, battery life will be one of the more interesting things on here. It's got a 4,821 milliamp hour battery. It's got a wireless charging as well too. So I'm pretty curious to see what the battery life will be like. Just watching it drain, it looks like it's gonna have some pretty decent battery life. But again, I just have to use it for a longer period of time. So my first impressions of the Pixel Fold, or just this type of folding phone, right? It's a very cool sort of device to use, especially for people who I think do a lot of multitasking, watch a lot of videos. This does enhance the experience and gives you, you know, a phone and a tablet. So very, very cool. Yeah, so I just need to spend some more time with it, but I think it's a very cool device, very cool. Just running stock Android on this folding experience is just really smooth. So what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.